excuse me. This week's webinar will be actually talking about the internal CAM part mode inside SolidCAM itself, inside SolidCAM 2013. We started the last week and the week and before that we started to give an introduction of what's new in SolidCAM 2013. And for our next series of webinars, we're actually going to take certain subjects and going in depth in some of those options. And today's webinar will actually be doing the option of we're showing the new option of internal CAM part mode. As we'll be also talking about some of the advantages and some of the disadvantages, and also be showing you how to work with it in an assembly mode as well. Just a quick reminder as far as our webinars go. Remember, if you have any questions at the end, you can always, we'll leave time at the end for questions, and as usual, all you have to do when doing that is just click on raise hand, where you have the area for questions. Write down your questions, whatever it may be. When you finish writing the question, just click on the send button, and at the end of the webinar, I'll go through all the questions to the best of my abilities. Okay, as I said, we'll be going through now the option of CAM part. Now, if you take a look at my screen right now, we have a part over here. In fact, I'm going to actually close it, and I'm going to open up a folder. And as you can see in this folder, I have one part. Okay, I'll double click on this part just to open up the part itself, and I'm going to keep this folder open on the side so we can take a look at it. Note, in this particular folder, there's nothing else but this this file in here called multi.sldprt. Now, this is a SolidWorks file. The idea of working inside what they call internal mode is that you do not have any other folders or files that are created besides the part itself. Everything is within the kernel of the SolidWorks part itself, or assembly for that matter. But right now I'm just showing it in the part. Later on we'll talk about assembly. Okay, now the idea is that everything is inside this, so later on, if you have to transfer this or bring this over to somebody somewhere else, all you have to do is transfer this part itself, and everything goes with it. If someone who does not have SolidWorks and opens up this part, he won't see any of the SolidCAM options that are in there. He'll just see it as a regular SolidWorks part without any SolidCAM in it, because then SolidCAM acts just like any other add-in. And since that person may not have that add-in, he will just see it as a regular SolidWorks part. Okay, let's start the operation over here, the defining our part. Now, we started talking about this in one of our last webinars, but like I said, I want to go now in depth into this part itself, into this option. Okay, we'll start SolidCAM, new milling. And up until now, you were used to using external mode, which is the default in my particular case. I can choose instead internal, which is working directly on the SolidWorks part or assembly. This is a part, so I'm going to work internal on that part. The moment I click that, note the area of where the part is being saved is grayed out, because everything is within the part itself. You'll also note at this moment there is nothing here. Over here, what you would have over here instead normally is if there are any other parts that were done already on this part, any other SolidCAM projects done, you would see the list of the SolidCAM projects done on this part over here. Okay, I'll click on OK. And then I'll do my regular options over here, define a coordinate system, for example, click on the surface to create the coordinate system. Click on OK. Now, I'll go and define my stock. And in this particular case, I created my part with a configuration. And I'm going to first go into 3D model. I have a specific 3D model as my stock. And I did that as a configuration on the part itself, as shown over here. All I have to do now is just click that, and that is my stock material. So you can use configurations at any point. By the way, you can always add extra parts to this if you want to have clamps, or remember, this is not an assembly, but a SolidWorks part does support multiple bodies inside a part. So you can actually build a clamp in here or a fixture, whatever you want, and keep that as a separate body within the part itself. Okay. Again, if I want my target, I have in my particular case, I have my my settings set that the solid is picked up automatically. But if not, all I have to do is just go ahead and pick the target itself. Everything is done, and I accept that. Okay, let me close this now, and let me open up the folder where I actually open. You'll note nothing else was added over here. What you will see is that the file size is slightly larger. Now, for a person working in SolidWorks and only SolidWorks, the fact that it's a larger file would not have any effect on the working of SolidWorks itself. The extra weight in here, as I like to call it, is the actual SolidCAM, but if the person's not working in SolidCAM, the extra size will not have any effect on working on the part itself in SolidWorks. The only thing that will happen if you transfer the file, it'll just take a little longer because it's a larger file. That's about it. But as far as working, it'll work the exact same way. Okay, let's reopen the part. Now note what happens when I reopen the part. Since there's a CAM project already defined on the part, it shows me that I have a CAM project. If I click on OK, you'll note that the CAM project will load over here. Or should have. Oh, maybe I didn't do it correctly. I didn't click the right button. Sorry. Click on multi-part. Here we go. Click on that. Open it up. And you can see we have our SolidCAM project opened up over here. Let me close this again. Again, open up the part. This time I'll click on cancel. When I click on cancel, it opens up as a regular part without anything on it. Okay. Now if I want, I can start another project. SolidCAM new milling. Again, I'll do internal, and you'll note that we have our CAM part showing us exactly what is here from beforehand, just showing that we have already one project on it. Doesn't stop me from declaring any other kind of project. Now, again, coordinate system. If I want to use a different machine, I can use a different machine. Coordinate system, create a different coordinate system. Let's say now on this side, and the rest like I've done in the other part. I'm just going to do a simple accept this for now, and that's it. Now again, let me close the part. Now when I go to file and open the part over here, you'll see that now I have these two projects shown over here, and I can open up whichever one I want. Okay, let me just do cancel, actually close the part itself. If I were to go to SolidCAM and open the part from here, note first of all, we have the option of either PRT PRZ, which is the way we always had it, or internal CAM parts. When I choose internal CAM parts, and then I click on the part, you'll note it asks you which project you want to open in SolidCAM. I can open each one, any one I want, or at this point I can also erase. If there's a project that I don't want to have, I can just click on it and click on delete this particular project. If I want, delete it, yes. Let's not accept this for now. And as you can see again, we still have our project over here. Note the size is a little smaller now than it was before because I've erased one of the projects that I had inside over there. Now, before I continue on to the options of using this in assembly, let's go over some of the advantages and even some of the disadvantages that you may have over here. First, one of the major advantage of working in this particular part is that you do not need to have, it does not create another folder that you may have that you may have over here, which you may have had before, which is PRT, and with the folders itself. Now, one of the disadvantages, but I don't really see that much of a disadvantage as it itself, is that when you're creating a G code, the G code is created within the SLD PRT. So in other words, you cannot retract the G code from the part unless you open up the project itself. But this can be remedied very simply. All I have to do, is I can actually store my G codes on a different location, not inside the part itself. And I actually do recommend in general for people to do that, so they don't always have to go looking for the part. What I do normally is if I go into my SolidCAM settings, we have the option of G code over here, and I can tell it to store my G code, to save my G codes in a specific directory. This way, when I create any G code, it will be thrown automatically into this directory where I've created my directory, and then I can just go directly to the directly into that directory, without even opening up SolidCAM and just taking the G code files directly from there. So that's not really a disadvantage. Now, let's talk about synchronization on the part itself. Now, synchronization does work on a part. However, the synchronization will work on a part only if the change was done on the actual part that you have. If somebody has a part in a different location under the same name, the same part, a copy of it, makes a change of it, and then you change that part with this part, you will not keep any of your data of SolidWorks, of SolidCAM in there, because it's a completely different part. It's within the part itself, and you're just changing the part. However, working in assembly mode remedies that situation, and we'll talk about that in a few moments. Okay. Now, another thing that can be of a great advantage also is if you're working, if your shop is working with PDM, all you need is that one single file. And if you're all sharing that one file, then the engineering department can go into the PDM, change that part, and it's the same part that you're using. So it makes it a lot easier. But that's a different story. I'm not going to go too much into that right now. Okay. Now, I did this right now using the SolidWorks part. Let's use the internal mode now, working on an assembly instead. So let me close this window that I have over here. I don't need it open. I'm going to open up my folder over here. I've done a little homework over here. And I'm going to open up this area. I have a complete assembly. I built an assembly before. I built my fixtures and everything before I even started the part. Okay? I'm going to open up my assembly. You can see I had several parts inside the assembly itself. And this is the part. You can see I have my assembly over here. I made several configurations. For instance, I have a configuration showing it with the stock and a fixture as shown over here. Being that I'm an assembly, I can always add things to this as well, even after I've opened up my SolidCAM project, because we're working directly in the assembly itself. Okay, I even have another fixture over here showing it like this. In other words, I can set it up exactly the way I want to have it inside my assembly, define them as well as fixtures inside my SolidCAM project. No problem. No problem working with assemblies in the internal mode. And there's also a big advantage, which we'll talk about as far as synchronization goes, which I'll even show it to you as we go on, but we'll talk about that in a few moments. Let's continue now with my SolidCAM project. Again, I'll start my SolidCAM project. New, milling. All right, I'll save what I did over here, no problem. And again, I'll use the internal mode. No, nothing was done here yet. Using the internal mode on my assembly itself. I'll click on OK. Again, just like any other CAM project, I'll create my home position on the part over here. No problem at all. Click OK. Again, I can define my stock. Let's define my stock, and I'll even use my configurations that I've used over here. I'll put it over here. Use this option over here, 3D boundary, 3Ds. Click on that itself. That's my stock. Target, I have it as chosen everything, but I'm just gonna erase it all and just select what I need over here. And we're basically all set. Okay. Now, remember, since I am in an assembly mode at this point, excuse me a moment, thank you. Since I am in an assembly mode at this point, you'll note, first of all, that nothing was added to any of these things. Everything that I'm going to be doing in SolidCAM now is inside this file over here, my assembly file. You won't see it, it's all hidden, but everything is there. Okay? Now, let me close this again. And what I would like to do is I actually want to do one particular operation over here, and then show you how synchronizing works on assemblies itself. Okay. Let me just do a simple operation of 2.5D profile. And the idea of what I'm trying to show you right now is just the whole idea of synchronization in assembly mode. I'm going to create a chain around that area over there. Choose a tool. Doesn't make a difference right now as far as the diameter of the tool or anything else like that. We just want to see the tool path. Give it a level up until this point over there, that surface over there. Let's just do simulation. Let's put this in our top view. And if we take a look at the simulation, you see it works exactly on the geometry like we expect it to work. Notice the arcs over here, it works exactly on the arc itself. Okay, I'm going to close my assembly now. Okay, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to open up not my assembly, but the part itself. Okay, this is the regular part that's in here. I'm going to make a change on the part. Remember, I'm not making change on the assembly, I'm making change on the part itself. For example, I'm just going to take this edge over here. Right now, the dimension over here is, say, 28 millimeters. I'm going to change this to, say, 35 millimeters. Sorry, not 25, 35. You notice the part changed. No problem. I'm going to save it. Close. Now let me go back and open up my assembly. Okay, open up my CAM project. Now, you'll note that my part changed. You see, now we have a radius of 35 millimeters on the part. I'm going to right click over here and tell it, okay, let's go check synchronization. If I click on check synchronization, you'll note that it needs to be synchronized. It recognizes the fact that it needs to be synchronized. Okay? Now, before I do that, let me just take a quick look at the simulation before I synchronize it. And you'll note, obviously, if I zoom into this area over here, the tool is going according to the old geometry. Let's just do now the quick synchronize and calculate. Over here, we'll click on synchronize and calculate. Now if I run my simulation, you see everything is working now exactly on the geometry. So we have no problems of synchronizing. But just to prove another point to everyone, I'd actually like to change something else. I'm going to change my synchronization. Is first of all, I'm going to go out of here, go back one over here. I'm going to take a different part, the exact same part that was, but it's in a completely different location. In other words, as if somebody's sending it me from a different spot on a copy of the part itself. I'm going to go into the part itself. Let me change this radius here to 25 millimeters. Okay, save it. Close the part and save it now. Save all, no problem. Let me go into my folder here. I'm going to copy this part. Copy. And if I go into my internal assembly mode, I'm going to paste it over here, replacing what I have before. And now let me open up my assembly. Open up my project. Now note, this has been changed to 25 millimeters. If I go into check synchronization, it found the difference. So even if the part was outside of the assembly itself, and there was a different part also, and I just put it into here, just like you may have done when you were outsourcing it, and somebody else and sends it back to you. No problem of doing this in the internal mode when working on CAM parts, on internal part on an assembly. Okay, again, all I have to do again over here is simply go into synchronize and calculate, and if I run my simulation now on the part, you'll see that it's going according to the new geometry that I have over here, the synchronized geometry. So synchronizing does work over here when using the assembly mode. And again, of course, since I am in assembly mode, no problem bringing any kind of fixture in this particular case. By the way, I've seen recently there's a different program out that also works, that also associates itself with SolidWorks or in a different program where they also say they work in the internal mode where you see only that one file. However, they do not work in assembly mode for this particular case, which, by the way, is a great advantage, especially when you're talking about the need for synchronization of parts. This can be easily done when you work in assembly mode. Again, also working in assembly mode, you can also have this. You still have the advantage of working inside, of adding fixtures and whatever you may need over here, and you still have the advantage of keeping your files small, exactly the way it was before. In other words, not adding on another folder or anything else like that. Working directly inside your SolidWorks files. Everything is stored in the SolidWorks files. That's one of the major advantages of working inside the internal CAM internal mode, as I've shown here in the webinar. Okay. this is since we're covering only one subject on the webinar itself. I'm going to go to some of the questions now that we've had over here. Okay, how does internal CAM part deal with synchronization? Okay, how does internal CAM part deal with synchronization and read-only design parts? Well, the synchronization I think I went over, so I don't think it's a question anymore. The read-only design parts, that's a very good question. I would have to check into that, really. I've never actually, that's a good question. Robert, I'll get back to you on that. I'll give you an answer via email. And as far as how about importing fixtures and assemblies into internal CAM parts, it's not a problem at all, especially since you can start off working in an assembly mode also as well, which solves any of those kind of problems. Okay. If there are any other questions, I'm more than, well, I'll give another minute or two for people to ask any kind of questions that you may have. Again, I just wanted to point out one more thing, is that the G code, as I said, should be saved on an external folder, and that can be easily done just by going into my SolidCAM settings and setting up a location of where to save my G code itself. Okay. Also, a quick reminder to everyone is that the webinars are always recorded, and you can always see the webinars themselves inside our site under webinars, webinar recordings. And by tomorrow, this webinar will also be added to this spot over here as well. Okay, everyone, thank you very much for joining the webinar. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got more information. Next week, we'll be continuing with our next webinar on What's New SolidCAM 2013. And of course, you'll see the invitation to it. So take care, everyone. Have a great day. And again, of course, have a great weekend as well. And see you at our next webinar.